Hello, and welcome to How Loyalty Programs Can Leverage New Trends in Corporate Travel. My name is Kim Lantis. I'll be helping host today. Joining me are our presenters, UX designers here at Nearsoft, Camilo Orduño and Paulette Fernandez. Hi, ladies.
Hi, everyone.
Perfect. So, just to let you know, Camila and Paulette are members of Nearsoft's UX team, our very own user experience and design team. Here at Nearsoft, we know the ins and outs of working with agile software development teams. So, we make it our job to help other software companies ship great products. That's a tongue twister. It's my pleasure to introduce today's guest presenter, Vasil Elotul, the founder and CEO of Triphop. Welcome, Vasil.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Perfect. It's our pleasure. So thank you for partnering with us today. Basil, before we get started into today's webinar, could you please just feel free to tell us a bit more about Triphop and the rewards you offer your customers?
Sure. So Triphop is an online travel agency. We're different in the way we approach travel rewards. So rather than providing the traditional loyalty programs, we do understand that our core audience are millennials. We understand millennials have different needs and views of loyalty programs. So we have tailored the loyalty program that provides more value to millennials. Our primary target audience is the self-managed business travel millennials.
Perfect. Fits really in nicely with our talk today, as well as who we are at Nearsoft, also a self-managed company. So as we get on to our time together, let's talk about what we'll be doing. So first, we're going to take a look at who these corporate millennial travelers are, referred to as CMTs throughout our slides, and loyalty programs. We're also going to take a look at the motivation they use to select a loyalty program or programs, as well as the usage of these loyalty programs from start to finish, what that journey map for them looks like. We also want to take a look at what CMTs value the most in a loyalty program, and I think Basil will have a lot to share with us about that, as well as the top pain points they experience in loyalty programs and how we could use these pain points rather to avoid them as a way to boost our own loyalty programs and our strategies. Also, I would like to mention that we do have a Q&A session at the end. So as you're listening today, please feel free to keep in mind anything that you'd like to know more about, and we'll have time to discuss that at the end. Thank you. There you can see our Twitter handle, Nearsoft UX Webinar, and of course, feel free to use the chat box in the webinar as well. So let's go ahead and get started. Paulette.
Hi, everyone. So before we start, we wanted to share a few important facts. So right now, the travel industry is one of
Also,
the
I would like
biggest
to mention
industries
that
in
we
the
do
world
have the Q&A session.
and with a big economic contribution, especially in the corporate traveling. That is estimated to be spending $1.6 trillion for the 2020. Now, this is an important fact to remember, especially if your work is related to the travel industry. Next, please. Right now, millennials are the largest group in the US workforce. So they are primarily the ones that are making all these corporate travelers or that are starting to do them. And 70% of them are already part of a reward program. So, and they're doing about 7.7 trips annually and using different platforms and technology during their journeys. So that relationship between corporate millennial travelers and rewards programs, that was really interesting for us, and that's why we decided to do this research to learn from them.
So, to discover what drives and what frustrates corporate
You're on
millennial
mute, Camila.
Hi. So, to discover what drives and frustrates the corporate millennial travelers, which we're gonna call CMTs, we did our research and we did 6 user interviews to users from 23 to 38 years old that made at least 7 corporate trips in a year, that work in a US-based company, and that were, of course, members of different rewards programs. So first, we needed to understand how to use these loyalty programs, and with the interviews, we were able to trace all their experience during while using the loyalty programs, and from start to end, from the program acquisition to the points redemptions. And as we can see in the graphic, the more struggling part for them is when they start to track their points and maintain their status and redeem their points. But we will talk about all these in a more detailed way during all this webinar. So first, we need to know what motivates a CMT to select a loyalty program. We discovered that they start to use them when they underwork, when they started to do frequent business travels. I mean, of course, they knew these kind of programs exist, but they actually started to use them under work. And then they started to use the ones their coworkers recommend them to them because of the good experience with those programs and because it's easier and more fun to travel with your work colleagues. But at the end, the deciding factor to choosing the program they are in right now, it's because of the location they are, and it's easier and it's easier and it's better to be in a company of to be affiliated with a company that it's located in the city they live because it gives them better flying routes and also better schedule times. But this is talking about their hotel programs, but also on their hotels programs, they choose the ones that gives them a wider range of places to stay.
So now is when the booking process starts. This is really important because now it's when the rewards programs come to the equation. So we found that there are two types of corporate millennial travelers: the ones that work for a small company or a startup, and the ones that work for a bigger company. Now, these two type of users are really important to identify because it has an huge impact on the booking process. It tends to be very different between one to another. And as we know, millennials have this natural feature to look for independency and to having things their own way. They like to customize things that meets their own needs. So even if they have the access to a travel manager that is more common for big company employees, they decide to do it their own because that way they can select a perfect timing, a certain airline, or a hotel that it's better for their own expectations. For the employees that work for a small company, they usually start the booking process using Google Flights because that way they can compare different prices and different airlines and options. Once they identify an option that might be good for them, then they go directly to the airline website to complete the booking. When it comes to big companies' employees, they tend to have more access to these business travel platforms. They usually use Points Travel, Trip Actions, Concur, and Agencia. These platforms allow them to complete the whole booking process. But even though they agree that they sometimes go to Google Flights to just to make sure they're getting the best option, and then complete the finish during this using these platforms. Using these platforms is easier for the companies to keep track of the expenses. So that's why it's a good option for them. And since the booking process is the first step to using a rewards program, because now it's when they start to earning points, right? So they have a different consideration for this. The first one is the timing. Since this is a business travel, they're going to make sure that they get on time for the business meeting or a conference or even an event. And they're going to make sure that the flight doesn't have too many layovers. So it isn't that exhausting and it doesn't have an impact on their performance during the event. The second consideration is the price. Travel trips are usually made under a budget, so they're gonna select the best option, but that meets these constraints. And of course, the last consideration would be the reward program. They're going to select an hotel or an airline that is affiliated to the reward programs. It doesn't really matter if that is paid with a corporate card or a personal card because they're going to link their rewards program and so they can keep earning those points and maintain a certain level.
Paulette, excuse my interruption here. It seems to me this flow between time, price, and then finally the rewards program is focused more on when it comes to airline bookings. I'm wondering, Basil, or if you guys have any insight of what this might, if this is similar to what it might look like for hotel bookings, or if there's a change here.
Yeah, it is actually the same. They use these considerations, well, especially the rewards programs and the pricing for hotels and airlines. So they're gonna make sure all these elements meet these considerations. And
Okay.
lastly, they're gonna decide for the one that contains their rewards program.
Okay. When it comes to booking, might that look different as far as time goes? Maybe with amenities or something like that, Basil?
So in general, our experiences, millennials tend to differentiate themselves from other generations by looking more at convenience. So they value convenience more than price, whether that is the corporate travel or it's leisure travel. So they would want to, in the example then with the airline, they would rather pay more for a direct flight, for more. They opt in for more ancillaries, so they would get more seats, pre-select their seats, get seats with more legroom. And the same thing goes with hotels. So they
Mhm.
always look at what's more convenient. That the convenient that comes before the cost consideration.
Okay, so like how close the hotel is to the menu and things like
Yeah,
that.
exactly. In the so again, millennials are about experiences. So how close is the hotel to the attractions that they're interested in the city they're traveling to plays a big role in their selection process.
Perfect. Thank you for helping us distinguish a bit of what time could mean in different scenarios. All right, let's keep going.
Let's do. So now that they're earning points, the next step will be to keep track of them and to learn about the benefits that they can take more actions from. So one thing that we learn is that most corporate millennial travelers are affiliated to many rewards programs. That's because they want to be prepared in case in the future they might need them. So since they have many rewards programs, it's hard to keep up with all of them. So the one that they know the most is the one that they uh, use more often, and the other ones come secondary. But here's when it comes to the struggle, because all these variations of rewards programs have different strategies and different conversions of the points, so it's a little hard to keep up with all of them. Another thing that we found is that most of corporate millennial travelers prefer to use their computers to make some research and complete the whole booking process, because they have more space. It's more comfortable to be comparing different prices, different airlines, and timings, and they tend to use their phones only when they're on the go and they want to make a quick look to the status of their points.
So know that they have earned some points and are aware of the status they have. They need to maintain this status or level up so they can continue earning benefits or even getting better rewards. But this is not as easy as it may seem, since most of the users say that it's kind of difficult to maintain their status because they need to take very specific steps like booking just with the participant airlines or hotels, or doing a specific spend amount, or traveling just long distances to get a specific award, and even others that they are not even aware of. And also they feel that they need to earn a lot of points or travel a lot of miles to get a valuable option. And now it comes the hardest part of using loyalty programs. As we can remember on the journey map, this is the hardest part of this is the part where users struggle the most because they feel most out of control. Because they feel it's difficult to use these kind of programs at the beginning because there's a lot of details and information you need to consider to actually know what you can get and to get the most value out of these programs, and it's something that takes a lot of time and most users don't have this time to do the research. But what makes it so difficult for them to use these kind of programs and to redeem their points and knowing when is the right time to redeem those points is, well, they need to do a lot of price checking that takes them a long time because they need to check in different websites to know what's the best option, and they want to make sure they are getting the most value out of these programs. And because of they are not sure about the value, they are so not sure about when to redeem these points, or if this the right time, or if they should wait to get a better option. And also, since there's no consistency between the points value among the different companies, and each company has their own metrics and points status, it's difficult for them to keep track of them and know what they can get between one program and another. And also, not knowing exactly what they are gonna get until they read the fine prints makes this process a little more tedious, and it takes longer than it should be. And also, it gives them a bad experience because they can get false expectations of the rewards. And at the end, it all comes of the perception of value, and the value of their points, and also that they feel that they need to do a lot of spending or travel a lot of miles just to get a valuable option. And and the fact that they think they need to do a lot of spending just for something worth it is not something they lose their mind about it. So, with this research, we were able to identify the struggling patterns among the users. And here are the top 5 pains that you should avoid using during your rewards programs. And well, this is mostly because users find difficult to use these programs because it takes a lot of time to understand and what they really can get from them, and learn all the details and how they works, and not everybody has the time to doing this. And the top 5 pains are inconsistency among the different programs. Since remember that they are part of different rewards programs, it's difficult to understand the value of the points and understand what they can get from one program to another. The uncertainty of knowing when it's worth to redeem their points, also the unclarity or not of not knowing what they can get and what they need to do to level up or get a better reward. The fact that they think the more they need to do a lot of spending and travel to get valuable options, and the constraints out of not being able to transfer their points between their different accounts, and also that their points have expiration days or that they're expired too soon.
So not everything is bad news. So we're gonna tell you now what are the perks that makes members of loyalty programs stay loyal to them. The first, we found that most of the participants, most of their points come from corporate travel, and then use those points for personal use or leisure traveling. They never use those points for business travels because there will there will be a way for the company to reimburse those points to them. And company trips are a great way to help them earn points faster because it doesn't have an impact on their own finance. Some other interesting fact that we found is that 50% of the people that we interview like to mix business travel and leisure travel. When they realize that the location that they're going to be in is really interesting, they decide to stay longer in the place, maybe extend the weekend to turn it into a quick getaway. And sometimes they use their personal points to buy a cheaper or free flight to bring over a friend or a loved one. So this new trend that we found, it's mixing business and leisure, which makes it pleasure, right? This is a new trend in the travel industry that we believe it's gonna be here to stay for a long, long time. That lets us know that the line between professional and and personal line is starting to blur out. Now, this is really important for travel providers to have in mind because it's going to give them a good opportunity to bring a better experience for corporate millennial travelers. Now, there are a lot of types of rewards programs that they go from even avoiding a long line before boarding, or being upgraded to a first class seat, or getting a free night or in a hotel. Um, but what they value the most are the ones that help them cut down costs, because that's what really help them in their personal finance, right?
Real quick, going back to this idea of 100% of our users agreeing that free flights or hotel nights might be the best way to get this value from the loyalty programs. I'm wondering, Basil, if this is up until now, perhaps, because I'm very curious about this idea of these cash rewards. In your experience, where is cash rewards comparing to this idea of free flights or hotel nights?
Sure. So I guess the 100% of those people are trying to get to the promise, right? So this is this is the only option they have, pretty much the only option they have with the current loyalty programs is you're gonna get upgrades, you're gonna get free nights, free flights. But the reality is, this is the promise. This is what the loyalty program providers are promising users that are going to get. The reality, as we've seen before, is earlier that this doesn't happen. It gets to be complicated. People don't understand how the program works. Their points are going to expire. They need to travel so much in order to get enough points to do so. There's no instant gratification component to it. So millennials tend to value experiences, and then they're impatient. They want that instant gratification. So the way we think about it is we want to give people the freedom to reward themselves. So A is you're not restricted. You're not restricted to how you reward yourself. So you could value certain experiences. You could value certain, like a food, or so whatever. When you travel, you get cash, which it's up to you to reward yourself whichever way that you feel rewarded. The other thing, it's instant. So we thought the problem with the loyalty programs is you have to accumulate so many points and travel a lot in order to start seeing the benefits. We wanted to get to shorten that cycle, make sure that it's instant. So at this point, cash makes just more sense to reward users with cash, or something that is as fungible as cash. Maybe at some point when the hotels are going, if they're going to do something similar to what the airlines have done, and do alliances like, Star Alliance or One World, where you earn points in one of the alliance members, but you can redeem in many different places. Maybe that's going to give them more freedom, and we're working with some of the hotels on exploring that. But until then, it's just way too restrictive, way too confusing today, that users are not really seeing the value that they're promised, and cash solved that until an alternative solution is available.
Perfect. Thank you for your insight.
You're welcome.
So here are a few recommendations that we were able to gather from the research that will definitely improve the customer experience of your corporate millennial travelers, that will increase and also increase their loyalty. So number one, be straightforward. Use easy metrics in your points and don't make them struggle to understand what's the value of them. And be clear from the start for what they are getting and what they need to do to level up. Be flexible. Give corporate millennial travelers the option to transfer their points, because remember, they manage different accounts of they are members of different loyalty programs. Don't be too hard. Let their points have a long life. If not, let them be eternal. Users don't like to be forced to book a flight just so they don't lose their status or lose their points. Remember bleisure, this new trend that is business plus leisure. Turn bleisure into your advantage and make it work into your program. And last but not least, keep it simple. The easier, fastest, and simpler way you can do this process for them, you will keep them happy and they will be glad to use your platform. Their ideal platforms allows everything done in one place. Price comparison, check the different options, do their bookings, and also keep track of all the programs they are members of. And all this in a consistent and unified way.
Um, well, I was just wondering before we moved on, Basil, did you have any other perhaps ways in which you at Triphop or could recommend how to increase the loyalty of your users with the rewards programs?
Sure. I mean, those are good points. In reality, they're more difficult to implement. You know, all of those points are liabilities on the hotels. That's why they have it expire, so they don't keep it on their books. And you know, keeping it simple is much it's much easier said than done. And the recommendation is again, and the market is already catching up, which is personalization. Understand who your customer is, understand what their preferences are, and be more relevant to them. So when you're, I mean, there are multiple aspects of a loyalty program. When you can't just communicate the same benefits to everyone, you have to communicate benefits that are relevant to certain people. I keep going back to experiences and what can I do with my points beyond just getting free nights and upgrades. What can I do outside of the hotel experience? So build that ecosystem. Partner with experiences platforms, with tour operators, in order to introduce fungibility to your points and introduce more freedom and make it personal. So let the people that value those experiences understand that they value it, and let them know that those are options that they have available to them now.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so we're getting to the end of our webinar, but before we go, we would like to leave you with a few takeaways about corporate millennial travelers. So remember that they select their loyalty program regarding of how frequent they start to travel. They do it as well by recommendations of their coworkers, and finally, they're gonna decide for one that is in their own location. Second, they corporate millennial travelers appreciate more the rewards that help them to cut down costs. And let's not forget about this new trend that is bleisure, that we believe it's going to stay here longer, and having this into account in your loyalty program is going to help you to take it to its full potential. And let's not forget that something that corporate millennial travelers are really waiting for and really excited for is that are platforms that let you do everything just in one place, from the booking process to keeping up with your rewards programs. So we are sure that this webinar is going to help you to have a better understanding on how corporate millennial travelers experience the booking process and how they use the loyalty programs. And this will help you learn from them and about their needs and expectations to take your loyalty program to a whole new level. You're
That darn mute. I'm sorry. Thank you, Paulette and Camila and Basim. I was just going to let you know that if you have any questions for us, please feel free to leave your questions in the chat box or on Twitter. The handle there is Nearsoft UX Webinar. Also, if you would like to get a hold of us, specifically Camila and Paulette, as well as any of the other presenters here, you can feel free to do that via our website at Nearsoft or their personal email addresses, which are displayed there for you. So going back to the questions, I'm not seeing anything right now in the chat box, but I was wondering, Vasu, this idea of um, this going back to this idea of cash, because it's very interesting to me. It's my understanding, and perhaps I'm mistaken, that a lot of times the rewards programs are based in like a service, something that is already offered, right? Hotel rooms that, they're not booked anyway, so why not give it away for free? Or I have an open space on my flight, why not fill that with somebody who's loyal to me? So I get the sense that sometimes the company might not have anything to lose, so to speak. Cash, on the other hand, is something that you know could be counted, I guess, as a loss for a company. So this is really innovative to me, and my question is, how is it feasible? How do we make that work?
Well, I think there are a couple of options here. One is to take your existing loyalty program, make it more fungible, and give people more options beyond just your services. So build that ecosystem, and make it fungible, meaning I can take my points at a certain hotel chain and use it in another hotel chain that's part of that alliance. That's one way to do it. The other way to do it is just give people cash. Cash gives you again the freedom to reward yourself, and the and it's instant. So I don't want to wait and use your service 5 or 6 times in order to get enough points to do something with. I want to get that instant gratification. So the hotels themselves, or so there are three options. Hotels can introduce fungibility and build an ecosystem. Then your other option is you use services like Triphop or others of what they call the OTAs, the on-time travel agencies, which can give you that cash, or it's a partnership between hotels and OTAs, and that's the direction that we're going into. Because loyalty program is not the only problem, right? The problem is people are wasting too much time looking for hotels. On average, the average leisure travel trip, on average, someone will search 23 websites, right? So that's a lot of time that they
Hmm.
spend. So simplify the experience. Make make sure that they get more value, and that they get rewarded, and then automatically they're going to be loyal to you.
Thank you. And going back to this idea of this bleisure trend, I really like that word. I think it's very fun. Um, what is it that you guys are doing to maybe incorporate this idea of both business and leisure pleasure trips? Anything that you've kind of come up with so far?
So with leisure, we tend to, again, the biggest opportunity is understanding your customer, right? We know our customers. Most of our customers are millennials, and leisure is obviously picking up. So now we try and make recommendations on things that you can do in the city when you book. So this way you're able to extend your. So if you're going to Nashville, we could say, hey, well, do you want to extend by another night? And those are the things that you can do while you're in Nashville. So it's not just, do you want one more? Do you want to extend your trip? It's what can I do? What's there to do that's worth me extending the trip. So we try to understand our customer, build the ecosystem of experiences and recommendations, and personalize those recommendations.
Right. And then, of course, they're able to use your reward directly on something else that isn't necessarily related to hotels. We actually have a question here coming in on the chat box from Kristen. I suppose this is going to be directed more toward Paulette and Camila. She wants to know what methods were used to conduct your research.
Well, we did user interviews, and when we gathered the information to analyze it, we did an affinity diagram, which is a method that helps understand and organize the insights and organize them and identify patterns.
Yeah, so pretty much, we first created a profile that was able to give us information that we were looking for about corporate millennial travelers that we show you at the beginning of the session. Once we run all these interviews, we gather all that information, and as Camila said, we work with an affinity diagram that helped us identify patterns and to synthesize the information easily.
Great. Well, we don't have any more questions coming in the chat box right now, so I guess. Oh, I'm sorry, Kristen did actually answer to your question, so let me get this in there. She says, "Do you have any excuse me, do you have any data on how much ROI a loyalty program provides? If you give a user a free night, how many more do they book?" I think that is actually in this particular case probably a question directed more toward you, Basil, as it's not necessarily directed toward the research that was done by Paulette and Camila today. And she also tells you thank you for answering her question.
Oh, thank
Basil,
you. Thank you
let's
for
talk about
asking.
ROI.
You're welcome. So yeah, so loyalty programs are extremely profitable for hotels. Roughly 60 as a hotel, if you have if you have well as a hotel brand, one of the bigger brand, so you have multiple properties. Roughly 60% of your revenue is going to come from your loyalty program members.
Wow, 60%.
Yes.
And very
and
good.
and and obviously, I mean, the reason that hotels love loyalty programs is because those are direct bookings. You're not paying an intermediary a 15 to 30% commission. So that's directly, the margins are much higher, and then you have the customer data, which your typical OTA will not share with you.
I imagine also, is there any savings there in like the marketing side or the publicity side? Like you already have these individuals within your program, and so I'm assuming that the methods to market are also a savings.
Yeah, of course. I mean, one is you know who you're marketing to. So you have their contact details. You have their consent to talk to them, and then you have enough information about them, or you should have enough information about them to personalize the offers that you have. So your conversion rate on those offers on your products should be much higher. You look at Amazon, for example. Amazon has like regular customers and has Prime. The average conversion rate on an Amazon guest or an Amazon customer is 10%. Conversion rate on Prime is 71%. So obviously, once they're on your loyalty program, the conversion rate is much, much higher, which means the return on investment is much higher than marketing to someone that you don't know.
Interesting that the difference between the 10 and 71 actually equates 60% as well. Maybe that's not interesting. Maybe that's just the way it works. Perfect. So that's the end of our Q&A coming in right now. Camila, Paulette, Basil, anything else that you'd like to add before we say goodbye today?
No, thank you very much. Thanks for having you. It was a great opportunity, and I hope I answered you guys' questions.
No, it was great having you. Thank you very much for your time today as
You're
well. So
welcome.
thank you once again, Basil Elotil from Triphop, Paulette, Camila. Until next time, have a great day, everyone.
All right, thanks. Bye bye.
Bye, guys. Bye,
Bye.
everyone.
Bye.